welcome back to On The Volley. I'm here outside the Shamrock Irish pub in the centre of Rome, just around the corner from the Colosseum. Anyway, I'm here today to talk about Celtic. It's been a minute since I've spoke about them, for obvious reasons, which I've already said, but the good news is I've had what I believe is my last test. I may have to have one more, but so far everything is looking good, so I'm happy with that. Now, yes, what can I say about our performance, in the semi-final of the Scottish FA Cup? All right, we just absolutely demolished St Johnstone. Now, let's not forget, we played them in the league, and, top against bottom, and they beat us. They beat us 1-1. 1-0, sorry, 1-1. What am I talking about? They beat us 1-0. And, to be totally honest, I wasn't that bothered. I understand some of the comments that was floating around. Brendan Rodgers wasn't too happy. He was worried about the team becoming complacent. And to be totally honest, I think they were complacent. But I think they were complacent due to the fact that they were lacking motivation. Let's be honest, it's very hard to motivate yourself when you've got a league in the bag, the league is yours, So, again, like I said, I didn't think anything of it. I was happy for St Johnstone. I know that they're in a tough situation at the moment. A win was really important for them, and I don't suppose anyone would have bet against Celtic, to be totally honest. But I didn't think it'd have any impact or effect, for our game against them in the semi-final. And I was right, 4-0 in the first half, 2 goals by Maida. McGregor, started it off with a great goal. As soon as he just run into there, I knew where it was going. Bottom corner, bam. And McGregor's been doing that all season. Hold on a second. We got the old tourists on their mopeds, the moped tourist tour, or whatever they want to call it. I suppose it's a good idea. I suppose it's good, especially when it's sunny and warm. Anyway, let's get back to it, So, Jota got in on the act as well. A great performance. We just blew them out in the first half. Second half, we didn't expect Celtic to score 4 goals, to be totally honest. Although I wouldn't have put it past them. They only scored 1. And I had, a few single bets on. And I had 5-0 to Celtic, as you can see. Now, to be totally honest, I also had 6-0, 5-1, and 6-1, 6-0 and 6-1 would have given me more money, but I'm happy with the 60 euros. So at the end of the day, if you think to yourself, well, you spent 40, you made a 20 euro profit, so you haven't won that much. No, I haven't, but it's 4 points, more or less. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the score. Like I said, there was no doubts. Now, we have Aberdeen in the Scottish FA Cup final. We're on our way to the treble. Aberdeen started off well at the beginning of the season, then they tapered off, but they seem to have, got back some form. But personally, I'm not worried. I think, the way we're playing, we should make easy work of them as well, And again, going back to the worried about being complacent, I didn't think that was a problem, because although maybe we showed complacency in our game against St Johnstone, we picked it back up. Rodgers had a word with them. He wanted more from them. But I'll repeat again, when you've won the league, it's just, it's like, you just don't have that incentive, that motivation. So I suppose, you know, Rodgers was right to, you know, sit down, talk to him and say, look, we want more, I want more, I want more. And that is what makes Rodgers a great manager. I predicted, okay, us winning the treble this season. Look, don't get me wrong, yeah. That doesn't make me Einstein. And it doesn't make me a rocket scientist neither. I think that's probably one of the easiest predictions anyone can make. You know, Celtic winning the treble, because I made a prediction last season as well. Unfortunately, we didn't win the treble last season. We won the double, but that's fine. It was Rodgers' first season. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, on the domestic front, you'd expect Celtic to win the treble. I mean, that's the minimum we expect from them. So, like I said, you know, it doesn't make me, okay, Einstein or a rocket scientist. You know, I think a lot of people predicted us winning the treble. So, hey, I'm just glad that we're on our way. Look, the Scottish FA Cup final, it's a one-off. Anything can happen. You know, I don't see anything other than a Celtic win. But, you know, a penalty that's given that maybe isn't a penalty, you know, a sending off. You know, we could have an off day. I don't see it. I do not see it. But, again, I repeat, it's a one-off. There have been some giant killings in the FA Cups in the past. But, you know, I'm betting on us to win. And I think, you know, the bookies will have us as super favourites. And rightly so. I think the only thing we can look forward to now, okay, is beating Aberdeen. But more than that, seeing what the board does with regards to strengthening the team for next season, to put us in a position where we can start to compete on the European level. Look, don't get me wrong, I can't see us winning the Champions League in the near future, because I believe there is a massive gap, and that gap is basically down to the spending power. We're way behind the Premier League teams and maybe the Spanish, so on and so forth. You know, French, I don't know. It will be a tough ask, but we have improved this season. You know, we did improve, so I don't see any reason why we can't continue improving. And that has to be one of our main goals. Because let's be honest, on a domestic level, you know, we dominate. We dominate on a domestic level. So we do need to take it to the next level. And the next level, okay, is Europe. I think everyone will agree with me on that, yeah? So, look, great performance. Absolutely great performance. You know, a cynic could turn around and say that it was all in the game plan, okay? Letting St Johnstone beat us to give them false hope so that they actually believed they could beat us in the semi-final, so that they'd come at us and, okay, create gaps where we could go in, okay, and basically make the most of, which we did. Now, that is pushing it a bit, yeah. I don't think that was the game plan, yeah. But if you want to be creative, if you want to, like, you know, exaggerate a bit, one could say that. But let's be honest, I don't think so. I just think, you know, we weren't at the races, we weren't, you know, we didn't have that incentive, we were complacent, Rodgers dealt with it. So anyway, we're on our way to treble, and that's it. And you know what I mean? It's just Celtic. What can I say? Look, that's it from me. Shah. I'm out.